Same
in one.
same kind of a situation.
Yep.
3 under 5.
3 under 5. Yeah.
Isn't it?
So, but it's
Some
good.
days.
They're great. Yeah, some days I could use a little break right now,
You
but
know,
it's
it's
good.
it's high anxiety for a while, but it gets better, is what I keep telling Allison.
CBE. What were you, I'm interested is why did you, I mean, I know the whole church did it
Yeah.
and stuff. What motivated you to get into it to begin with? When you saw the thing, what did you think, I want to do it, or what were your thoughts?
I was scared to death, honestly. When I didn't know what our small group was doing at that point, and we'd kind of already committed to things in our family for the fall. And so when I found out it was this and the schedule it was, I kind of panicked. I had no idea how I was going to get it done. So just with the readings, and I was in, I guess, a Tuesday morning Bible study, and then I'm in the MOPS program here at church. So I was totally overwhelmed by it, to be honest with you. And so, yeah, so my husband and I just said we'll commit to it and see what happens. And so
How'd that play out then?
it was,
As far as the schedule and the business
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff, and when am I going to read this and all that? Because
Well-
I do it too, and I understand that. And I don't have kids at home
Yeah.
anymore, so
yeah, it was, honestly, it was just by the grace of God, because first, somehow we kept up, both my husband and I kept up with it. And I don't know, I was thinking about this question because I just feel like when you pray about it and commit to it, God kind of multiplies your time and gives it to you. And that's what he did for me. And whether it was my husband giving me an extra hour here or there once he got home for me to go off and read it, I started implementing quiet times with my kids, and I got it done in that part. So the time kind of just happened, and it was just obviously an incredible read. And so with God's help, it happened.
So talk about, I mean, some things that we've heard, and I've experienced my own reading piece of it, but talk about the different dynamic from reading the regular Bible and reading this new format. I mean, what was your experience there?
Well, I have to say, I've tried to read the New Testament probably a couple times before, and it was like kind of the same idea of like reading a section a day, but it was still chaptered and all the verses were numbered out. And maybe it just wasn't God's timing of when I was supposed to do it, but with this, it was just like just reading through a book, I don't want to say a novel, but you know what I'm saying. Like, it was just reading through a book without the interruptions, without being hung up on the chapter titles or the verses, or even so the footnotes at the bottom of a Bible, which I know sometimes like I get so hung up, like I feel like I need to read the footnotes with the verses. And so it just gets very chopped up. So I think that really helped. And I think also just having the freedom just to read it and not be bogged down with questionnaire. You know, you had the 5 basic questions, but I mean, I took notes and questions as I did it and highlighted it and everything, but it just kind of gave a freedom to just like, if you needed to stop here or go, you just didn't feel confined. So that's what I felt was just helped me kind of breathe easier through the process and not get hung up on those little things that I think serve a purpose when you are reading through the Bible and everything. But this kind of just allowed the flow of reading through the whole New Testament.
Yeah, that's well said.
Mm-hmm.
So what were some of your observations, and just from the experience of reading like that, and figure like that? What were some of the aha or new things or dynamics or paradigms that kind of confronted you along the way and maybe shaped your...
Well, I think the first point, and I think God kind of was setting the foundation for me to do this, to read the New Testament, because in previous Bible studies I had done some Old Testament books. And I would have to say I became a believer kind of in high school, so it was just a little bit later on in life. And so just really, it for the first time brought the connection of the Old and New Testament together for me. I just kind of always felt like it was two separate things. Like I knew it went together, and I knew God was the weave in between everything, but they just always were two separate entities for me, and this just brought it together. So I think that was a huge thing. Second of all, just the prophecies. I think that goes into like connecting the Old and the New Testament, but I just never realized everything that came to fruition from the Old Testament. Little things like all the books that Paul wrote, I just had no idea. I think even the genealogy, I would always just skip over that in reading the Bible, which I think a lot of people do. And not that I know everyone's names, but it made sense to me, like in reading it, just seeing the connections and going back to the Old Testament. And I was actually just thinking about this, it's like, I know what it means to be a believer. I know what it means to accept Jesus Christ in your heart. But when you read it and how it is shared so much in the New Testament, it gives me the confidence to articulate it to other people, even my kids. And for that, it's just a gift in itself. And so, I get very scared when I share with people, or I get nervous, and I just feel like I have the backup now, just reading it versus just like a scripture here, which is awesome, but you need to have the big picture to be able to share with other people. And so that was just awesome. And I think also just in sharing with my kids, I think it's just helped me have the tools and again, the confidence in the word to share with my kids, which is just huge. So I've had a lot of aha moments in this whole process.
I would love to be at her table. The light's going to see stuff going on in your eyes, and you light up, and that's.
Well, it's good, but it's also bad because I'd be laying at like 12 o'clock at night, and I'm like, I have all my questions to my husband, and he's just like, really? And I'm like, I know, I need these questions answered. but I think that's good, because even though if they weren't answered, it gives me, I guess, maybe the passion to go back and answer some more of them. And I mean, honestly, and I think I shared this with the church, when I was reading through it, I think First Colossians was kind of a big one for me, and I literally was highlighting, and I'm like, I need to stop because this looks like just how I started, because I wanted to highlight the whole page. And I'm like, we can memorize this. I just felt like we need to memorize this whole book. When after you got done with things. And so, so that was really just cool, just because the word it came to life in a new way for me. And it's just so life applicable. I also just felt like for instance, just you see so much how Jesus prays through the whole thing. Okay, you see that? We need to do that. I think also just obeying. It's not just about obeying God. That's a reason to tell your kids why you need to obey. I walk away and I'm like, how do people parent without this? They're like, what is the purpose behind your daily actions or your life, without that? So, and if you ask me right now, what is a specific verse that stuck out? I'd have to go back through my notes, because it just, again, it just kind of all came together for a picture like that for me.
So it's a story.
Mm-hmm.
That's really, I don't know about you, but I've heard a lot, I felt that a lot in my own journey with the CBE and doing that was just the feeling that people, and we would articulate, I felt like I was in the crowd kind of sitting back, hanging out and watching this more than I've ever before.
Yeah.
And so because I don't know if I really like Paul. I don't know if I like his personality.
Mm-hmm.
Or things that came up like we were struck by the quiet authority of Jesus when he would speak. He didn't have to shout, he didn't have to repeat himself. He would just say this, and that happened. Like the demons or whatever, he would just say, and it was done. Be healed, stand up and walk. Just this observation of, you get the feeling you're kind of in that place then more than, did you get that at all?
I did. Well, I think I had just an understanding of, I think one thing that the fear God, I don't know that I totally understood that. I think I'm just more of the lovey type person, and that's how I see Jesus and everything. And so when you see all the different aspects and just how human Jesus was and is, it's just, you just see all the different, not personalities, but all the traits that Jesus had. And I think that helps me have a better understanding of what fearing God means. I think also, you see the human side, how he wept, for people. And he did have that sadness, that I think we experience too in situations. And he understands that. but there was also the joy when so many people believed. And so, you know, and then you just see also that they struggled with things that we struggle here. I mean, you still can show someone a miracle, but they still might not believe. And that happened, you know? And so it's just, things don't change all too much.
It wasn't interesting though, many times that even Paul would say, I'm going to preach, and I'm going to share Christ. I know that no one's going to believe. They're not going to listen, not going to understand. Yeah. But I'm going to go anyway because you told me to go.
Yes.
I mean, it's just like, you know, so much of what we do is, well, is that really fruitful? Shouldn't we strategize that? Shouldn't we kind of think that a little bit to go where we're going to have most impact? And Paul would just say, you don't know what God, I mean, just so much of all that stuff kind of comes out when you read like that.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So when your personal you talk about the fear of God and by the way, you have incredibly expressive eyes. So, I mean, it's really good because a lot of your story comes out in that. But your kind of some tender or really poignant moments, maybe beneath some things that happened, or were there any of that?
Yeah, I think just kind of overall, I think it's just given me a passion that I know has been there, but has been reignited. And I just say that because I grew up going to church, but I don't think I was not in the Word on a daily basis, or anyone teaching me on a daily basis. So I think what that passion also has ignited is just how much I'm excited to share with my kids and to pass that on to them and create a new picture of what that looks like. And just that excitement of having Jesus in our life and what that really means. So if anything, that's just really what has ignited from it. You know, it's been, and what also just adding on that is to be able to go through it with my spouse. And, you know, he took away different things from it than I did, but we were able to like bounce questions off each other. And it just also helped, I mean, just reading it on a daily basis. I mean, going back to my kids, like they got to see that, you know, and we were on a road trip. And so we downloaded some of the DVDs or the MP3 on a CD. And I mean, I don't know what they heard, but they heard us listening to God's word on a road trip. And we had that time, and, you know, and then I read it at the same time. And so they got to see that. So, I mean, I've just felt like it's this ripple effect of positive things, you know, besides just enhancing my relationship with Jesus and God. It's just, it hits so much more than that.
It's not a bad thing to invite God's word into our
I know, but
the rhythm of our life.
No, it's not. But I think it's not. I don't know if that it comes naturally to a lot of people. You just have your moments with God, but to interweave it, like you said, with every aspect of your day or with more aspects of your day, I think it helps do that because you are in the Word.
Talk a little bit, unpack the community piece when you kind of came together in a group. What was that experience like for you, as opposed to a traditional kind of fill-in-the-blank Bible study?
Yeah, well, it kind of stressed me out personally because I'm a very type A person, so it was very open and everything. But I think what was neat, just how it allowed the conversation just to open up and not necessarily follow a format. And if we hit all the questions, great. If we didn't, like, there wasn't this pressure. It was just like, come, bring your notes, bring what you took away. And what was neat about it is to see just how it hit everybody a little bit differently, or what stuck out, or if you did have questions, just to get other people's insights of maybe how they took it or looked at it. So I think that was a really cool part, is just getting different opinions, and people are in so many different stages of life that it hits everyone in a different way.
There's a little iron sharpen iron going on in there too. I mean, I sense that.
Yeah.
Somebody else would go, what did you see? And they talk about this. And for example, the guy who was the head of the women's ministry at Woodman came, and she started talking from an insight from women's ministry on women and that kind of stuff, and would share some insights, and we're like, whoa, I didn't even see that. You know, so it's like, that adds texture and kind of layer your own experience, I think, when you come together. And
Yeah. Well, and I think also, I mean, for the most part, all of us have kids in our small group. Some are a little bit older, and then we have our younger ones. So I would say we're kind of in the same life stage. But I think what is neat about this is so many times in small groups you can do your topical studies, or maybe just focus on one certain book of the Bible, which I think is great. But this, I think, allowed to touch everybody's lives in a different way. And it could be any life stage. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, our kids came up in conversation a little bit, but that was not the focus, which was kind of nice, like the focus was on the Word of God. So that was actually a nice change of pace. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
This is good stuff. Anything else in?
No, I mean, I feel like I kind of shared it all, but I think overall this experience was very humbling for me. And I felt a little conflicted actually after sharing with church, because I didn't want to come off being like prideful about it, like keeping up with my readings or, because I honestly, I give that all to God, because I don't understand how it was feasible. Like when I looked at our schedule and our family life and everything, like it still boggles my mind. And so it's more just like this was a very humbling experience for me. And it just has made me reflect back on just the people in my life that have kind of set the foundation for me to get to this point, because I think it was all God's timing and for my personal life for me to read through it and what I've gotten out of it. But I mean, it just makes me want to turn to the first page and start all over again. So
that says a lot. I mean, it really does. I don't know, but a lot of times you get through a Bible study, you go, thank God, double that one. Next, kind of thing. So that it really says a lot. So you've gone through this thing. You read big, 8 weeks, finished the New Testament. Transformational stuff happens. So God's Word really does transform life.
It does. Yep.
Yeah.
And it makes things put in perspective too.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have you brought your New Testament. Actually, I have you open up. Do you have notes and stuff in there?
Yeah, I have just highlights, but things that I loved or things that I thought we should memorize, and I just had to start using different color pens because I felt like or even questions I had. And so and then I had another book where I wrote notes as I went. So I had more of a easier thing when I was talking to the groups of people, of reference and that sort of thing. So, but one thing also that stood out is the verses that are more repeated with people that you